Many years ago, Cybertron is destroyed at the hands of Megatron, during his quest to obtain the Allspark. Megatron discovers the Allspark on Earth, but crash lands in the Arctic Circle, becoming frozen in the ice. Captain Archibald Witwicky and his crew of explorers stumble upon Megatron's body in the late 19th century. Megatron's navigational system is unintentionally activated, and Archibald's eyeglasses are imprinted with the coordinates to the Allspark's location. Sector 7, a secret organization of the United States government, independently discovers the Allspark and builds the Hoover Dam around it to mask its energy signal. The still frozen Megatron is moved into this facility, and is reverse-engineered to further advance human technology. In June 2007, the other Decepticons, Starscream, Blackout, Scorponic, Frenzy, Barricade, Bonecrusher, and Brawl, have already landed on Earth and assumed the disguise of Earth vehicles. Blackout and Scorponic attack the U.S. SOC Forward Operations Base in Qatar in an effort to use the military database to discover the location of Megatron and the Allspark, but they do not succeed. A small group of survivors under Captain William Lennox wander through the desert and are followed by Scorponic. The autonomous robotic organism, shortened to Autobot, known as Bumblebee, is also on Earth, disguised as a 1976 Chevrolet Camaro, and looking for Sam Witwicky, the descendant of Captain Archibald Witwicky. He finds Sam at a used car lot where the boy is looking to purchase a car. Bumblebee covertly sabotages all of the other cars in the lot, leaving him as Sam's only option. Sam buys Bumblebee and the two quickly begin to bond as Bumblebee helps Sam try and woo his crush, Michaela Baines. Sam is unaware of the fact that Bumblebee is an alien, until one night when the Autobot drives off without him. Sam chases Bumblebee on a bike to a factory area, calling the police in the process, and witnesses Bumblebee transform into robot mode and send a signal to the Autobots in space. The police soon arrive and Sam is arrested. At the Pentagon, Defense Secretary John Keller oversees the investigation into the attack in Qatar. After Blackout's failure, Frenzy infiltrates Air Force One and attempts to download all information relating to Project Iceman. However, Maggie Madsen, one of the technicians studying the Decepticon infiltration signal, detects Frenzy hacking into the files and convinces the Pentagon to take down the defense network, halting Frenzy's download. When Air Force One makes an emergency landing, Frenzy slips into Barricade, and discusses his discovery of Archibald Witwicky, who has seen their language. Using an internet search, they discover that Sam's glasses will lead the Decepticons to the Allspark. Frenzy and Barricade begin tracking Sam's location. Back in Qatar, the Army Rangers are attacked by Scorponic, and take refuge in a nearby village. Calling the Pentagon and getting air support, they discover that the Decepticons are vulnerable to high-heat weaponry such as sabot rounds. Using this information, the soldiers inform the Pentagon that they now have a weapon. Sam, having been bailed out of jail by his father, gets the impression that Bumblebee is stalking him. A freaked-out Sam flees from Bumblebee, who is in car mode, on his mother's bike. Bumblebee then proceeds to pursue him. Michaela sees Sam on the run and follows him on her motor scooter. After Sam evades Bumblebee, he is confronted by Barricade, who demands Archibald's glasses. Michaela arrives as Sam is running away from Barricade. Bumblebee, still in car mode, then finds them and has them get in. Barricade chases Bumblebee to a power plant where Bumblebee transforms and battles the Decepticon robot to robot. Meanwhile, Frenzy chases Sam but gets his head decapitated by Michaela. However, his head still functions and takes the form of Michaela's phone to hide in her purse. Bumblebee, who has defeated Barricade, properly introduces himself to Sam and Michaela. He then takes them to rendezvous with the rest of the Autobots. The Autobots, Optimus Prime, Jazz, Ironhide, and Ratchet, land on Earth and take on the forms of several Earth vehicles. They all meet in a dark, secluded alley, transform in front of the two amazed humans, introduce themselves and tell of the reasons they had to come to Earth to Sam and Michaela. Meanwhile, Maggie, unable to convince John Keller and his officers of the Decepticon virus's complexity, makes a copy of the intrusion signal and shows it to her friend Glen Whitman, who discovers a message with the signal about Sector 7, Captain Witwicky, and Project Iceman. However, the FBI arrest Glen and Maggie, who desperately tries to convince them not to go to war with the wrong country. Sam, Michaela, and the Autobots return to Sam's home to retrieve the glasses. However, agents from Sector 7 arrive to take Sam and Michaela into custody. As Sam and Michaela are taken away in one of their vehicles, Seymour Simmons, the agency's director, reveals that Michaela has a criminal record and threatens Sam with life imprisonment. At which point the Autobots disable the convoy and rescue the teens. Michaela then explains to Sam that the only reason she has a record is her refusal to turn her father in for the crimes he committed, prompting her to ask him what he has ever sacrificed in his perfect little life. Reinforcements arrive at the scene and the Autobots retreat. However, Sam and Michaela are recaptured and Bumblebee is also captured despite Sam's pleas to let him go. Prime orders the other Autobots to let Bumblebee be taken, unwilling to use deadly force against the humans. At the Pentagon, a virus frenzy uploaded during the Air Force One hack causes a global communications blackout. While Keller is finally informed of the Transformers by Tom Banachek. After Bumblebee's capture, Optimus uses the glasses to locate the Allspark at Hoover Dam, and declares that if they cannot defeat the Decepticons, he will merge the cube with his spark, even though it will kill him. Sam, Michaela, Keller, Maggie, Glen, and Lennox's unit are brought to Hoover Dam, where they are shown by Simmons and Banachek the frozen Megatron and the Allspark, while Frenzy slips away. Sam explains the Decepticons' plan to use the Allspark to transform human machines to conquer the universe. Locating the Allspark, Frenzy regenerates the rest of his body and sends out an alert to Starscream, who mobilizes the rest of the Decepticons. Due to Starscream's attack and Frenzy's sabotage, Megatron begins to thaw. And Sam, Lennox, and Keller convince Banachek and Simmons to release Bumblebee so that he can get the Allspark to Optimus Prime. Bumblebee converts the Allspark into a smaller state for transportation to Mission City. Glen, Maggie, Keller, and Simmons manage to contact the Air Force and direct F-22s to Mission City. Frenzy tries to stop them but is killed. As Bumblebee, Sam, Michaela, and Lennox's unit drive to Mission City, they come in contact with the other Autobots, who join the convoy. Barricade, Devastator, and Bonecrusher, in vehicle modes, pursue them and Bonecrusher transforms into robot mode. Optimus transforms to stay behind and stop their pursuers. He fights Bonecrusher and eventually kills him. Meanwhile, the rest of the Autobots and the soldiers reach Mission City and come under attack by Starscream, Devastator, Blackout and Megatron. Bumblebee is crippled by Starscream while Jazz is killed by Megatron. Michaela hijacks a tow truck to carry Bumblebee to safety while Lennox tasks Sam with taking the Allspark to a building where it will be taken by military helicopters. Ironhide and Ratchet cover Sam as he makes his run to the building, protecting him from Blackout before being wounded by Starscream, leaving Sam to get to the building on his own. Optimus Prime finally arrives in the area and confronts Megatron. The two battle one-on-one before Megatron knocks Prime out and chases Sam. As Sam gets to the roof of the building and is about to hand the Allspark off to one of the helicopters, it is shot down by Starscream. Megatron destroys the portion of the roof the Sam is standing after he refuses to hand over the Allspark. However, Optimus catches Sam and he and Megatron resume their duel, with Megatron once again gaining the upper hand. Meanwhile, Michaela drives the tow truck in reverse to allow Bumblebee to fire on Devastator, who has Lennox and his men pinned down. Bumblebee kills Devastator and a full airstrike is called in on Blackout and Megatron. As Blackout attempts to assist Megatron, he is killed by Lennox and the Air Force before he can engage. Starscream hides among a Raptor squadron, destroying 3 fighters before being chased away. The Air Force and Lennox's Rangers attack Megatron, inflicting serious damage upon him, but he is still functional, and heading toward the cube. Finally, with both Prime and Megatron weakened, Prime beckons Sam to shove the Allspark into his chest, destroying them both, but Sam instead takes the riskier action of shoving the Allspark into Megatron's chest, destroying it, and killing Megatron instead. Optimus thanks Sam for his courage and for saving his life, while Bumblebee, who has temporarily regained his voice, asks permission to remain with Sam, which is granted. In an attempt to cover up the existence of the Transformers, Sector 7 is disbanded, while the remains of the Decepticons are cast into the Laurentian abyss. Though Megatron is dead, the Allspark's destruction leaves the Autobots unable to restore Cybertron. With no other home to go to, the Autobots decide to stay on Earth. And Optimus sends out a signal across space in an effort to locate any surviving Autobots, while Sam and Michaela begin a relationship, and Starscream retreats from Earth. In 17,000 BC, a group of human hunters discover Transformers already on Earth, building a machine. One of the Transformers notices the humans, and his reaction is less than friendly. In September 2009, the Autobots have teamed up with the American soldiers, including Lennox and Epps, in a secret team named Nest under the command of the U.S. military, but also incorporating soldiers from other countries such as the United Kingdom. Officially, the U.S. government still keeps the Transformers' existence a secret. Nest is hunting down the Decepticons on Earth. A region of Shanghai, China is evacuated to allow Nest to deploy with a cover-up of a toxic chemical spill occurring. As soldiers probe the region, they find the heat signature of the Decepticon Demolisher, who transforms and wreaks havoc on the roadways. His discovery prompts his partner, Sideways, to escape as well. Sideways is pursued by Orci, Skids and Mudflap, although Sideswipe, waiting for the Decepticon, eventually slices him lengthwise in half. Optimus Prime is airlifted to Shanghai and chases Demolisher through the city with Ironhide. Optimus shoots Demolisher several times in the head, while Ironhide shoots out his wheels, causing him to crash and fall off a bypass, badly injuring himself in the process. Before Optimus kills him, Demolisher delivers the cryptic message, "The fallen shall rise again." Meanwhile, Sam Witwicky is preparing for his move to college and dealing with his bipolar mother. His father is looking forward to enjoying a holiday in Paris, and Mojo has a new canine companion named Frankie. Sam is on the phone to his rather snarky girlfriend, when he finds a splinter of the Allspark lodged in his D-Day shirt. He experiences a brief flash of images before the splinter burns him. Dropping it, Sam sees the floor catch fire as the splinter burns its way down to the kitchen, where it brings numerous kitchen devices to life. These appliance bots make their way to Sam's room and attack. He escapes to the garden, where the bots pin Sam and his father behind the water fountain. After Bumblebee has destroyed the kitchen robots, and part of the Witwicky's house with them, Sam hands the Allspark shard to Michaela. His mother demands Bumblebee leaves. Sam then tells Bumblebee to join the other Autobots, as both of them need to move on. Sam and Michaela have a slight scuffle over who should say the words, "I love you," first, but they kiss and move on. Sam leaves for college, and no one notices a toy car in the lawn. It detects the splinter and signals Soundwave, who is stationed in orbit around Earth, disguised as a satellite. And Soundwave orders the truck to follow the girl. Meanwhile, Nest is in a video briefing with General Morshower, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. When they are visited by National Security Advisor Theodore Galloway, who has been dispatched to relay the president's concerns over the casualties in Shanghai. As Optimus relays the warning of the fallen, Soundwave takes control of the satellite transmitting the message. Galloway dismisses the threat, convinced that the only reason the Decepticons are interested in Earth is because of the presence of the Autobots. Therefore, he suggests that they may leave the planet. Optimus says that, yes, they will, but also warns Galloway that he may be wrong. During the conversation, Galloway reveals the location of the Allspark shard Optimus Prime had picked up after killing Megatron. And the location of Megatron's remains in the Laurentian Abyss. Sam arrives at college with his parents and meets his roommate, Leo Spitz, who operates a conspiracy website and is convinced that alien robots are hiding on Earth. Sam feigns ignorance and goes to see if he can get another room. But his hunt is interrupted by his father and mother, the latter of whom has unwittingly purchased some marijuana-laced brownies. In the corridor, Leo points out Alice, another student he has the hots for. Sam is more concerned with tracking down his mother, who by now is roaming the school, informing random people about the state of Sam's virginity. Soundwave dispatches his minion Ravage to Earth, where he infiltrates the Nest base on Diego Garcia. Ravage horks a swarm of microcons into an ventilation outlet, and they swarm down to the chamber where the Allspark shard is being held. There they combine into Reedman, who steals the shard and joins Ravage in a rapid escape. Although he's due to have a webcam date with Michaela, Sam is dragged at a frat party by Leo. He suffers some sort of attack, seeing alien symbols which he is trying to write on a table with cake icing when he's approached by Alice, who attempts to seduce him. When Bumblebee shows up, she takes a ride with Sam. But Bumblebee does everything he can to convince her to leave, up to and including spraying her with an unidentifiable yellow liquid. Bumblebee then takes Sam to Optimus Prime, who tells him of the theft of the Allspark shard and asks Sam to speak with the government on their behalf. Sam refuses, saying that he has his own problems and does not believe that he is the right person for this task. At the Laurentian Abyss, Ravage meets up with several Constructicons, who have placed themselves aboard a cargo ship, then dives with them to the bottom of the ocean, where the U.S. military has dumped Megatron's remains. Using the shard and spare parts from one of the Constructicons, who is presumably killed, the Doctor is able to revive Megatron, who promptly travels to one of Saturn's moons, where the Nemesis is being used as a base by the Decepticons. He is awaited by Starscream, who is overseeing the spawning of a new army of Decepticons. After beating Starscream for leaving him to die, Megatron presents himself to his master, the Fallen. Although Megatron believes he has failed, the Fallen reveals that when the cube was destroyed, the knowledge within the Allspark was instead transferred to Sam, and with it the means to locate a device capable of creating vast amounts of energon. The Fallen commands Megatron to capture Sam and kill Optimus, who is the last Prime and the only Transformer who can defeat the Fallen. As he sits in Professor Colin's astronomy class, Sam suddenly reads through the entire reference book in a matter of seconds, before interrupting the professor's lecture to scrawl more of the strange symbols on a blackboard and deliver a speed lecture on higher physics. After the professor throws him out, he realizes that the effects he's been experiencing may be linked to touching the Allspark shard. When he calls Michaela to warn her not to touch it, the toy truck Decepticon tries to steal the shard. But Michaela captures the tiny Decepticon, Michaela promptly boards a plane to see Sam. Alerted to multiple Decepticon contacts, Nest mobilizes, but the Autobots are already on their way somewhere and refusing to answer calls from their human comrades. Leo and Alice find Sam in the dorm room, freaking out and covering the walls with glyphs. Alice pushes Leo outside, and when Michaela arrives, she finds Sam and Alice in what appears to be an intimate moment. It soon turns out, however, that Alice is a Decepticon as well. Michaela, Sam and Leo flee as Alice hunts them, devastating the campus library. Michaela eventually defeats her by slamming her into a tree with a hot-wired car. The three humans try to get away but are captured by Grinder and delivered to the waiting Megatron in an abandoned building. Megatron orders the Doctor to remove Sam's brain in order to access the information from the Allspark shard, but Optimus Prime and Bumblebee arrive to free the three humans. Prime takes Sam and flees, but is soon overtaken by Megatron, Starscream and Grinder. In the subsequent battle, Prime injures Starscream and kills Grinder by tearing his head apart. However, Optimus is eventually impaled by Megatron and dies. The other Autobots arrive, saving Sam and causing Megatron and Starscream to retreat. With the Decepticons unable to locate Sam on their own, Megatron decides that a show of force is in order to compel the humans to turn Sam over to him. Soundwave relays the mobilization order to the Nemesis and then tracks down Ron and Judy Witwicky in Paris. Decepticons, joined by the Fallen, enter Earth and cause massive damage in their transition forms, destroying a naval carrier in the Atlantic Ocean and attacking Paris, kidnapping Sam's parents. In a hijacked TV broadcast around the world, the Fallen reveals his existence to the world's public and demands Sam be surrendered to him or else the Decepticons will destroy the world. As a result, manhunt for Sam is launched. Sam, meanwhile, is hiding out with Michaela, Leo, Bumblebee and the Autobot twins, Skids and Mudflap. Leo complains loudly about the strange turn his life has taken of late, and Sam rightly tells him to shut the hell up. The Autobots return to the Nest base, where they are surrounded by the military. Galloway tells them that he has placed in charge of Nest, which is to cease all activities relating to the Decepticons. Nest is being stood down, and they are all to return to Diego Garcia, while the military draws up a coordinated multinational strategy, buying time by negotiating with the Decepticons. Though Lennox tries to argue, it's futile as Galloway pulls rank. Ratchet says the Autobots should leave Earth altogether, but Ironhide points out that it's not what Optimus would want. Feeling guilty for Prime's death, Sam decides to solve the mystery of the symbols he's been seeing. The Autobots identify the symbols as Cybertronian, but since the language predates their existence, they cannot translate them. Leo eventually suggests they may ask his rival, Robo Warrior, owner of a competing website, for help. To everyone's surprise, Robo Warrior turns out to be none other than Seymour Simmons, former agent of Sector 7. Simmons reveals that the Transformers were on Earth some time ago, as symbols similar to those Sam is obsessed with have been found on numerous excavation sites around the world, and that Sector 7 discovered evidence that several Transformers stayed on Earth for some time. However, in order to read the symbols, they may need a Decepticon. Michaela then interrogates Wheelie, who identifies the symbols as the language of the Primes, and suggests they may track down one of the ancient Seekers, the Transformers believed to be on Earth. Wheelie identifies one as being nearby. In Washington, D.C., at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, they discover an old Decepticon named Jetfire, disguised as in State Route 71, Blackbird. After some initial confusion on his part, Jetfire explains he has defected to the Autobots, inspiring Wheelie to follow suit. When Sam finishes writing down the symbols, Jetfire says that they were part of the Seeker's mission. And he opens a space bridge and teleports himself as well as Sam, Michaela, Leo, Simmons, Bumblebee and the twins to Egypt. He explains that thousands of years ago, the Transformers arrived on Earth on an exploratory mission under their original leaders, the Primes. The Primes had come to build a star harvester, a device which can create energon. The Transformers fuel by destroying suns. The Primes had a single rule of never destroying a star with a living bearing world, but one of the Primes, forever known as the Fallen, despised the humans and tried to activate the machine. The Primes were unable to defeat their brother, but instead stole the matrix of leadership, the key needed to activate the harvester, and gave their lives to seal it in a tomb made of their own bodies. Jetfire further explains that only a Prime can hope to defeat the Fallen, and with the death of Optimus, they are doomed. Sam suggests that they may use the Matrix to revive Optimus Prime, which is backed up by Jetfire. They head towards Giza, dodging Egyptian police on the way. In New Jersey, Nest are loading up to return to Diego Garcia when Simmons contacts Lennox to relay information about the new quest, and coordinates where they can drop Optimus's body. Lennox and Epps decide to trust the new information and go against their orders. Sam's group passes through a checkpoint, allowing Soundwave to pinpoint their location. But they reach the pyramids of Giza, where they pick up the next clue, pointing to Jordan. On the Nest aircraft, Lennox tricks Galloway into bailing out of the plane. Back in the U.S., General Morshower receives a communique from Lennox, and arranges to have assets in the target area. In Petra, Sam's group discovers the tomb of the Primes. Inside, Sam finds the Matrix, which instantly crumbles into dust into his hands. Sam collects the dust regardless. And he and Michaela return outside where Simmons and Leo have spotted the Nest team parachuting into Egypt to begin preparing for battle near the pyramids. Before Sam and the others can get back to Lennox and his people, the Decepticons start their attack. Bumblebee, Simmons, Leo, and the twins draw their fire while Sam and Michaela make a break for the soldiers. The Constructicons merge into Devastator, who proceeds to swallow Mudflap. Mudflap, however, is able to free himself. Together with Skids, they try to slow Devastator down. While the Autobots and Nest fight the Decepticons, Starscream leads several other Constructicons in a search for Sam, and intending to use Sam's parents to lure him into a trap. Falling into the trap, Sam offers to hand over the Matrix dust to the Constructicon Rampage, but only to stall for time until Bumblebee is able to attack and destroy the Decepticon. Ravage attacks Bumblebee from behind, but is killed as well. Sam then orders Bumblebee to get his parents to safety while he and Michaela try to reach Optimus Prime's body. A remote drone relays pictures back to Morshower, who launches Operation Firestorm, ordering an immediate launch of pretty much everything they can muster. In the meantime, Devastator has begun to take apart the pyramid that has been built around the Harvester. Simmons calls a Navy ship off the coast of Egypt and orders the use of a railgun. Meanwhile, Sam finally meets up with Lennox and Epps, but they're pinned down by Mixmaster. Jetfire arrives and kills Mixmaster and Scorponic, but is mortally wounded by the smaller Decepticon. Simmons relays Devastator's coordinates to the Navy, who score a direct hit on the giant with their railgun. Devastator is torn to pieces and topples from the pyramid. After an airstrike takes out most of the other Decepticons, Sam makes a dash for Prime's body, but is caught in the blast of a shot fired by Megatron. While paramedics try to reanimate him, the Matrix dust gets spilled across his hand, and Sam encounters the dead Primes in a vision. The Primes tell him that he was destined to find the Matrix and save the life of the last Prime. Sam returns to life, which is enough to get him and Michaela to admit that they love each other, and the dust in his hand turns back into the Matrix, which he is able to revive Optimus Prime. Just then, the Fallen arrives by teleportation, steals the Matrix, and teleports himself to the pyramid, where he uses the Matrix to activate the harvester. The soldiers and armored vehicles begin firing on the pyramid, but the Fallen raises the heavy weaponry with his telekinetic powers and destroys it all. Dying, Jetfire offers his parts to Optimus Prime, and then rips out his own spark. Ratchet and Jolt then proceed to fuse Jetfire's remains with Optimus Prime, making him extremely powerful with flight capabilities. Optimus Prime is then able to destroy the Harvester, then faces the Fallen and Megatron. After a short, but fierce battle, Optimus defeats Megatron and kills the Fallen. Horrified at the demise of his master, the severely injured Megatron follows Starscream's suggestion and retreats, but vows that the war isn't over. With the battle won, the Autobots, Nest, Sam and his friends return to the USA on board an aircraft carrier. Upon his return, Sam continues to attend college, while Optimus Prime sends another message detailing recent events, so the shared past of humanity and the Autobots will not be forgotten as it was before. In the distant past, during the later days of the Cybertronian Civil War, Sentinel Prime attempted to leave the planet with groundbreaking technology on board the Ark. However, his ship was shot down by the Decepticons and, after being sent hurling through space for a while, eventually crashed on the Earth's moon in 1961. The crash is noticed by the humans on Earth, leading to the space race under President John F. Kennedy. Landing on the moon as part of the Apollo 11 mission in 1969. Astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin use several minutes of radio silence to investigate the spaceship and discover that mankind is not alone in space. In September 2013, the Autobots are still part of Nest, cooperating with the U.S. Armed Forces. They have also begun to help humanity in its local conflicts, as Bumblebee, Sideswipe, K. and Dino destroy an illegal Iranian nuclear facility. On a mission to the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, a Nest team led by Lieutenant Colonel Lennox, Optimus Prime and Ratchet discovers an unknown alien fuel cell which had led to the Chernobyl disaster. While trying to secure the cell, they are attacked by the Decepticon Shockwave and his pet, the Driller, who are eventually forced to retreat by Optimus Prime. Meanwhile, Laserbeak kills Alexei Voskod, who had called Nest to Chernobyl and was secretly working for him. After securing the fuel cell and identifying it as part of the Ark, Optimus Prime is angry at the humans for not following through with their agreement of sharing all known information relating to Cybertron and its inhabitants. Despite this, he eventually informs his allies and Charlotte Meering, the Director of National Intelligence, about the space bridge technology the Ark contains. Together with Ratchet, Optimus travels to the Moon, where they find Sentinel Prime inside the ship. Retrieving him along with 4 pillars of the space bridge and the accompanying control pillar, they return to Earth, where Optimus uses the Matrix of Leadership to reactivate Sentinel Prime. In Africa, Decepticon leader Megatron, still recovering from wounds suffered in Egypt, meets with his lieutenants Starscream and Soundwave. Upon learning that the Autobots have recovered Sentinel and the Pillars, Megatron orders Soundwave and Laserbeak to terminate their loose ends. Meanwhile, Sam Witwicky, the Autobots' human friend, is suffering from everyday problems. Even though President Barack Obama has awarded him a medal for saving the Earth twice, Sam has trouble finding a job. Together with his new girlfriend Carly Spencer, whom he had met in the White House, after his former girlfriend Michaela had left him, he also gives the stranded Autobots Wheelie and Brains a home. After a long search, he finally finds a position as a mail carrier at a telecommunication company named Accurata Systems. From his colleague, Jerry Wong, he learns about a conspiracy by humans who collaborate with the Decepticons. Before Jerry can tell Sam more, however, he is killed by Laserbeak. Locked out of participating in the investigation by Meering, Sam turns to Seymour Simmons for help. Simmons, who has become a millionaire as a writer, and his aide, Dutch, helps Sam find out that the Soviets have taken photos of Decepticons removing hundreds of spacebridge pillars out of the Ark even before Apollo 11 had landed on the Moon. Sam and Simmons conclude that the Decepticons had left Sentinel Prime behind on purpose, knowing that only he would be able to activate the spacebridge, and only Optimus Prime could reactivate him. Sam is able to warn the Autobots in time so they can protect Sentinel from a Decepticon attack and escort him back to the Nest headquarters. Upon arriving there, however, Sentinel Prime betrays them, revealing that he made a deal with Megatron to ensure Cybertron's survival. After killing Ironhide and most of the Nest soldiers, Sentinel claims the remaining pillars and escapes. The other Autobots track him down to Washington, D.C., but before Optimus can stop him, Sentinel activates a spacebridge to the Moon. The portal allows dozens of Decepticon troops which had remained hidden under the Moon's surface to reach Earth, forcing the Autobots to retreat. In the meantime, Sam is worried about Carly and searches for her. He finds her with her employer, Dylan Gould, who reveals to Sam that he not only arranged for Sam to get a job with Accurata, but is also a collaborator with the Decepticons. At their request, his father had used his influence to ensure that NASA would not conduct any more missions to the Moon. When Sam and Carly attempt to flee, they discover Carly's car is a disguise for Soundwave, who takes her captive. Dylan instructs Sam to ask Optimus Prime about the Autobots' strategy. Otherwise Carly will die. To ensure that Sam will not try to warn the Autobots, he attaches a Decepticon disguised as a watch on Sam's wrist, and it taps into his nervous system. Meanwhile, Sentinel Prime has given mankind an ultimatum to exile the Autobots from Earth, since he is only trying to save Cybertron, or so he claims. The U.S. government promptly passes a bill to this effect. Before the Autobots leave Earth aboard their spaceship, the Xantium, Sam asks Optimus about his plan. Optimus replies that there is no plan, and mankind is on its own now. With all Autobots on board, the Xantium takes off, but is promptly intercepted by Starscream, who had waited in Earth's orbit. With the Xantium destroyed, the Decepticons believe the Autobots to be dead and let Sam go. With the Autobots out of the way, the Decepticons conquer Chicago, kill most of its population and set up the control pillar for the space bridge inside the city, placing the other pillars around the world. Dylan informs Carly that the Decepticons do not intend to return to Cybertron. Instead, they want to transport Cybertron into Earth's orbit, because Earth not only has the necessary resources, but also 6 billion slaves to rebuild the Transformers' home planet. Sam decides to go to Chicago, where Dylan has taken Carly. Former Nest soldier Robert Epps, who now works for NASA, accompanies him, together with other former Nest members. Upon arrival in Chicago, they are promptly attacked by the Decepticons, but are rescued by Optimus Prime and the other Autobots. Having never intended to leave Earth, they had hidden themselves inside a modified rocket booster that was jettisoned before Starscream destroyed the Xantium. The Autobots and the human soldiers make their way to the skyscraper where Dylan is located in order to destroy the spacebridge's control pillar. Sam and Bumblebee rescue Carly, killing Laserbeak in the process, during which they find a damaged UAV and alert the military to the Decepticons' plans. Due to another attack by a team of Decepticons led by Shockwave, the team is separated once more. While the Autobots battle the Decepticons, Epps and his team try to destroy the pillar from another skyscraper. However, they are attacked by Shockwave and the Driller, who brings the skyscraper crashing down. Optimus Prime comes to their aid and destroys the driller, but is shot by Shockwave and becomes trapped in crane cables. In the meantime, Lennox and the rest of Nest have managed to make their way into the city using wingsuits, and with Lennox's help, Sam destroys Starscream using weapons provided to him by the Autobot scientist K. Meanwhile, the Decepticons have captured several Autobots, but Dylan convinces them not to keep prisoners and kill them all. Barricade executes K, and Soundwave moves to kill Bumblebee next. But the Autobots Wheelie and Brains have managed to make one of the Decepticons' ships crash, thereby distracting Soundwave long enough for Bumblebee and the other Autobots to get free. Bumblebee overpowers and kills Soundwave. Nest soldiers and U.S. Marines snipe the Decepticons. Autobots and tanks roll in and ambush the Decepticons. Optimus Prime returns and massacres a large group of Decepticons. He then kills Shockwave and uses the Decepticons' arm cannon to topple over the space bridge's control pillar, deactivating the bridge. Optimus Prime then confronts Sentinel Prime and the two engage in a ferocious battle of student versus master. Carly stumbles across Megatron outside the main battle zone. Having previously witnessed a violent argument between Sentinel Prime and Megatron, she appeals to his pride and makes him realize that he will never be able to rule over Cybertron as long as Sentinel is alive. Meanwhile, after a long fight, Sentinel gains the upper hand over Optimus and severs his right arm. However, before he can execute his former pupil, an infuriated Megatron attacks Sentinel and severely damages him, declaring that Earth is his planet to rule. Megatron realized how far he had fallen in power within the past few years, and has decided to once again take his rightful place at the top of the command chain. Meanwhile, Dylan manages to reactivate the toppled pillar, but is attacked by Sam, who hurls him against the pillar, killing him. Subsequently, Bumblebee destroys the pillar for good, thus destroying the space bridge and, presumably, Cybertron with it. Seeing this, Megatron half-heartedly offers Optimus Prime a truce on the condition that he will remain in charge of the Decepticons, mockingly saying that they would be nothing without each other. Realizing that the offer is less than sincere, Optimus refuses and attacks Megatron, decapitating him with an axe. The weakened Sentinel Prime tries to excuse his actions, but Optimus, claiming Sentinel betrayed himself, executes the treacherous Prime with Megatron's shotgun. With the battle over, Sam and Carly are reunited, and Simmons takes an opportunity to kiss Meering, who he still has feelings for, and she has him arrested. With their home planet now forever beyond reach, and the forces of the Decepticons destroyed, the remaining Autobots finally accept Earth as their new home. As Optimus Prime states that the Autobots will always be here, to protect the Earth and all who live on it. 65 million years ago, on Cretaceous Earth, a Psittacosaurus is out hunting for food. The small dinosaur finds a fish and starts to feed, but stops as hundreds of alien ships enter Earth's atmosphere, piloted by the mysterious creators. The alien ships launch dozens of strange seeds across the planet. As they detonate, they convert the landscape and the herds of panicking dinosaurs into a metallic substance, ending the age of dinosaurs. Millions of years later, while digging in the Arctic, a team of geologists uncover a mysterious pair of metallized dinosaur skeletons, a discovery that attracts the attention of Darcy Turrell. In May 2018, 5 years after the invasion of Chicago, tensions between humans and Cybertronians have risen dramatically. Although the Autobots are officially granted asylum on Earth, public opinion has turned against all Transformers. The government of the United States has terminated all human Autobot joint programs and instated Cemetery Wind, an elite CIA unit intended to flush out the handful of Decepticons left on Earth. What the president doesn't know is that Harold Attinger, the leader of the operation, is slaughtering all Transformers, regardless of faction. On one such mission, the team pinpoints Ratchet hiding within an abandoned boat. He immediately tries to flee, but is crippled and brought down by their weapons. The team leader, James Savoy, mockingly asks why Ratchet ran if he's not their enemy, and Ratchet replays a transmission he received from Optimus Prime, ordering all Autobots to hide from humans. However, Savoy dismisses his pleas as his sister was killed in Chicago. A Transformer bounty hunter, Lockdown, who has actually been helping Cemetery Wind hunt the Autobots, emerges from the nearby swamp and attacks Ratchet, further damaging him. Walking past his human allies, Lockdown demands to know Optimus Prime's whereabouts. When Ratchet refuses, Lockdown brutally kills him by ripping out his spark. In Texas, struggling inventor Cade Yeager and his friend, employee Lucas Flannery meet at an old theater, looking for salvage. He finds an old truck, and upon inspection it seems to be full of artillery shells. He buys the truck along with the other theater equipment and puts it in his garage. Tessa, Cade's daughter, observes this while video chatting with her boyfriend and criticizes her dad for buying the heap of junk. While attempting to salvage the truck's engine to sell, Cade realizes it's actually a badly damaged transformer. After calling Lucas and Tessa, he connects jumper cables to its engine, only for it to begin replaying the distress call Ratchet had received earlier. Lucas and Tessa advocate calling the government, claiming that there is a huge reward for Transformers. Cade convinces them not to call the authorities until he can spend more time working on the truck, as he may be able to stumble on a technological breakthrough if he can figure out how the Transformers work. When Cade removes a live missile from the truck's power core, it transforms into a heavily injured Optimus Prime, who roars at them to stay back while he swings his weapon around the barn. Cade, Lucas, and Tessa ask why Optimus is so badly damaged, to which he replies that the Autobots are being hunted and he must help them. Cade offers to repair him, and sends Lucas to buy the parts that will enable him to fix Optimus. Cade and Optimus begin to bond as the repairs begin. In the Arctic, Attinger arrives via helicopter at Lockdown's ship and demands to know why Optimus Prime escaped him in Mexico. Lockdown derisively tells Attinger that Optimus Prime would not have escaped were it not for Cemetery Wind's interference, stressing that he does not care about Attinger or his goals and wishes only to capture Optimus Prime. Shortly after returning to Washington, D.C., Attinger receives a tip that Optimus Prime has been located in Texas and sends Savoy and Cemetery Wind to apprehend him. The agents swarm the barn, but there is no trace of Prime inside. When Savoy threatens Tessa to force Cade to tell him of Prime's whereabouts, the Autobot leader explodes out of the barn's basement in which he was hiding. He escapes after a brief skirmish that destroys the Yeager residence, with both Cemetery Wind and Lockdown in pursuit. As Cade catches one of Cemetery Wind's mini-drones, a white rally car zooms over the adjacent fields and picks up the Yeagers and Lucas. The driver turns out to be Shane, a rally car racer who is also Tessa's boyfriend. A group of Cemetery Wind vehicles begins chasing them. Both the rally car and Optimus Prime are chased into an abandoned factory, where Optimus Prime fights off Lockdown. Shane puts his driving skills to good use and pulls a series of tight maneuvers that result in the Cemetery Wind cars crashing, destroys his car in the process. Optimus Prime, who has caught Lockdown in a crane cable, transforms and tells the humans to pile into him and escape. Lockdown throws a grenade at the humans as they run towards Optimus Prime. Though Shane and the Yeagers escape, Lucas is caught in the blast and killed. Arriving at an abandoned gas station, Optimus orders the humans out and drives off to ensure that they have not been followed. Cade confronts Tessa and Shane about their relationship, but Tessa gets angry at Cade for putting them all in danger. The next day, Optimus and the humans set off towards Monument Valley. Prime scans a passing truck, sheds his layer of rust and takes on a new form with his old paint scheme. They arrive in Monument Valley where they meet the other surviving Autobots in the form of Crosshairs, Hound, Drift, and their de facto leader Bumblebee. Crosshairs and Hound start threatening the humans for having their species betray them, but Optimus convinces them that they have risked their lives to save his. The humans notice that there are clear tensions between the Autobots. Cade reveals footage of the attack on Ratchet and Leadfoot's demise using the stolen aerial drone, and Prime declares that he will kill the one responsible for hunting down the Autobots. Inspection of the drone leads them to a company named KSI, located in a rebuilt Chicago. It is run by Joshua Joyce, who is working with Sue Yuming and Attinger to create artificial transformers to eventually be used in the military. Using the remains of Megatron, Sentinel Prime, the countless Decepticons from the Chicago battle and the hunted Autobots, they have synthesized the metal that the Transformers are made of, calling it Transformium. When given commands through a computer, Transformium can be changed into various shapes or objects. Although a drone called Stinger, designed after Bumblebee, is active. Joshua's major project is a bigger, stronger drone called Galvatron. However, his attempts have not been successful. The drone keeps resembling Megatron instead of the friendlier image of Optimus Prime. Bumblebee builds Cade and Shane faux ID badges which the duo use to infiltrate KSI. Cade goes further in and projects imagery of Ratchet's severed head being melted down, which sends Prime into a rage. However, Cade is caught when his ID badge is found to have been scanned twice, by him and its original owner. He is taken to the upper floors and confronted by Attinger, who claims that what he has witnessed is in the name of world peace. He also asks him about the whereabouts of Optimus Prime, but Cade maintains his silence. Furious over how the humans have mutilated their comrades, Optimus orders an attack on KSI. Bumblebee, carried by Drift in copter mode, rescues Cade. The others trash the lab, free the injured and enslaved brains, and confront Joshua, only for him to openly declare that what is being done to prevent more Transformer-caused damage and that the humans don't need the Autobots. Disheartened, Prime orders a retreat. As the Autobots exit the factory and leave, Attinger catches up with Joshua and claims that the Autobots are terrorists for attacking the facility. He coerces Joyce to use the two functional drones to take down the Autobots. Galvatron and Stinger activate and pursue their quarry across a highway, with Galvatron doing more damage than his KSI handlers intend. Bumblebee fires upon Galvatron but is surprised to see him simply disintegrate and reintegrate again. Galvatron attacks Prime. As they battle, Optimus declares that the artificial creation has no soul, to which it retorts, "That is why I have no fear." As Tessa scrambles for cover in a nearby vehicle, Prime is suddenly shot from the back and falls. Lockdown has arrived, along with his ship. Lockdown gloats to his prisoner, claiming that Optimus was built, not born. And now the creators want him returned in one piece. The bounty hunter orders a net dropped over Optimus and hoists both the Autobot leader and Tessa's hiding place into his ship. Cade desperately clings to the net, but his strength gives out and he falls to the fields below. As the spaceship departs, Cade and Shane vow to get Tessa back. Lockdown throws Prime in a cage and orders his lackeys to dispose of Tessa. Prime takes note of several other aliens in similar cages, including other Cybertronian warriors. He also discovers the original purpose of the mercenary ship. It was originally used by a group of legendary knights, presumably including Prime himself, but now acts as Lockdown's flying prison. Lockdown's ship hovers over Chicago, triggering panic in the streets, but Attinger manages to talk down the authorities and send Savoy to rendezvous with Lockdown. As payment for Prime's capture, Lockdown gives him a seed. Cade, Shane, and the other Autobots get aboard the ship as it flies low over a bridge. While being pursued by Lockdown's henchmen, the two humans find a strange night armory, from which Cade takes a sword that opens up to form a gun. While Shane and Cade rescue Tessa, Crosshairs deploys the ship's mooring cables, which fire into the Willis Tower and preventing the ship from breaking atmosphere. The humans begin to clamber down the cables to safety, but they are pursued by a pack of Steeljaws. Bumblebee manages to save the trio. The other Autobots locate Optimus, who reveals that the section of the ship they are on can separate from the main body. Crosshairs uses a gunship to pick up Bumblebee and the humans, then leads them on a dogfight through Chicago's streets, destroying some of Lockdown's mercenaries. Back at KSI, it is decided that all equipment is to be moved to the Beijing facility to continue operations. Joshua is also none too pleased about the previous field test of Galvatron. Not only was it a loss on several fronts, but the drone also spoke, which was something it was not programmed to do. The Autobots land their new ship at an abandoned train yard. Optimus claims that he sensed Megatron's presence during his fight with Galvatron. Brains explains Galvatron's true nature, while he decoded dead Transformer brains. He learned that Megatron's mind had survived and planned to transfer itself to Galvatron's body, explaining Galvatron's sinister appearance. The tiny bot further mentions how Galvatron used his knowledge to build Stinger and the other drones, with plans to make them into his personal army. As Tessa tells the group about the seed she saw, Optimus and Hound explain that the creators used seeds to convert organic material into metal, then harvested the resulting transformium for their own purposes. Cade makes a call to Joyce and relays the newfound data about Galvatron. Knowing that Joyce is also an inventor with a heart, he pleads with Joyce to shut down Galvatron before things escalate. Although Joyce puts up an unconvinced facade, he demands increased security around Galvatron after hanging up. As police cars surround the train yard, the Autobots board their shuttle again and take to the air. Optimus says that though the Autobots will travel to Hong Kong and get the seed back, they will leave Earth afterwards. They are done protecting humanity. Cade disagrees, but Prime is non-responsive. They later debate the matter, with Cade attempting to reignite Prime's faith in humanity. In deep space, Lockdown finally discovers the absence of the smaller ship. He grumbles about Optimus Prime taking his trophy case and how the Prime will feel his wrath while he reverses course. Joyce meets with Attinger and Savoy and receives the seed. Joyce intends to detonate it in a region of the Gobi Desert, which will generate enough transformium to last a century. Attinger is eager to expedite production but grows incensed when Joshua disagrees and says that they should go slower, quite obviously moved by Cade's call. Meanwhile, Galvatron activates himself and starts to infect the legion of over 50 other KSI Transformers. When the alarm rings regarding Galvatron's escape, Joyce has Attinger and Savoy evacuated from the building and gets in a car with Sue, an associate named Darcy, and the seed. They decide to try to hide the seed in Hong Kong. Being hunted by Attinger and Savoy, Joyce seeks refuge on a rooftop when the Autobot-piloted ship arrives and attempts to pick him and the seed up. However, Galvatron and his drone army arrive and shoot down the airborne vessel, causing Bumblebee, Hound, and the Jaegers to spill out while the others, Prime, Crosshairs, Drift, and the captured Knights, to careen away into the Wulong Valley. Savoy finds the Jaegers and Joyce on the rooftop and open fires on them, but Cade leads him away from the others. The two jump across rooftops, eventually crashing into a house and getting into a fistfight which ends with Savoy falling from a window to his death. Hound and Bumblebee attempt to escort the humans and the seed out of the city, but are cut short when Joshua points out that the KSI-built Transformers were specifically built to destroy any Autobots or Decepticons left on Earth. This prompts Prime to enter the crashed ship and activate the armory as well as release the other captives within the ship. As Hound and Bumblebee hold the line and protect the humans, Optimus tries to convince the legendary warriors to fight alongside them. Their apparent leader violently declines at first, fighting the Prime in both his massive robot mode and his Tyrannosaurus mode. Optimus quickly defeats him, saying that he and the other warriors will protect his family or die. Then mounts the metal dinosaur. The Autobots mount their Dinobots and charge over the mountains into Hong Kong. Meanwhile, as Hound and Bumblebee are starting to be overwhelmed by Galvatron's drone forces, Optimus and his fellow Autobots storm into the city, slamming, crushing, stomping, and chomping all nearby enemies. Galvatron retreats as the Autobots and Dinobots decimate his forces. With this battle over, Optimus confronts Joshua for his actions and gives the order to defend the humans and escort them and the Seed away from the city. On the way, a homing beacon within the Seed activates, allowing Lockdown to track the Autobots down. He activates a massive magnet, wreaking havoc on Hong Kong. Everything metal from kitchenware to massive ships are picked up by the magnet, including the Autobots and Dinobots. After narrowly avoiding the magnet, the Jaegers are momentarily separated from the Autobots. Optimus shoots at the magnet, destroying it and releasing the Transformers from its influence. The ship retreats to a nearby factory, with Optimus hot on its trail. Cade tells his daughter to stay with Shane and the Autobots, as he wishes to fight alongside Optimus against Lockdown. As Optimus Prime and Lockdown battle one-on-one, Attinger corners Jaeger with a pistol, accusing him of choosing aliens over his own race, but he is quickly shot and killed by Optimus. Because of Optimus's choice to save Cade before defending himself, Lockdown gains the upper hand, impaling Optimus through the chest with his own sword and pinning him to a concrete pillar. Meanwhile, Tessa convinces Bumblebee to turn around and the three join in fighting Lockdown, allowing Shane to use a tow truck to unpin Prime. Just as Lockdown is about to kill Cade, Optimus jumps up and slices the bounty hunter in half, activating one of Lockdown's grenades. Prime tells the humans to hold on and uses rocket boosters to escape while the grenade destroys the last of the KSI drones. Galvatron has survived and retreated to the outskirts of the city. Watching Prime blast off, he tells Optimus to beware, for he is reborn. The Autobots, Dinobots, and their human allies all regroup on the waterfront. Cade and Tessa happily reconcile and Cade finally accepts Shane. Joshua nobly says he will help them with their destroyed home. Prime declares the Dinobots are now free as they depart for parts unknown, with the bounty on his head placing the entire Earth in danger. Prime blasts off into space with the Seed to confront the creators and discover the mystery behind his own origins, but not before ordering the Autobots to protect the Jaeger family. As he leaves Earth's atmosphere, Optimus Prime sends a message to his creators to leave planet Earth alone, because he's coming for them. It is the year 484 in England. A medieval battle rages. King Arthur and his knights are looking down the barrel of defeat at the hands of the Saxons, and their only hope lies with the magician Merlin. Elsewhere, Merlin, in reality merely a drunkard, rides up to a long-crashed alien ship and beseeches the occupants for help. He has kept their secret, but now needs their help. The other knights are losing hope, but Arthur believes Merlin will come through. Merlin manages to convince a giant metal red-armored knight at the ship to help, and it presents him with a staff, allowing him to return to the battle with a giant metal dragon. The battle is won in favor of Camelot. 2020. 2 years have passed since the Battle of Hong Kong. Optimus Prime drifts apparently lifeless in space. Both he and Megatron have vanished from Earth, and in spite of the atrocities caused by the CIA's cemetery wind, The vast majority of Earth's governments agreed that all transformers should be considered illegal out of fear for more of the devastation that had already occurred in the past. With the Transformers Reaction Force set up to track them down, though they've found refuge in some places such as Cuba, where Seymour Simmons is hanging out with some displaced Autobots. Meanwhile, Transformers continue to arrive in waves while NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory detects something large incoming. 4 kids, craving adventure, breach a fence and enter a section of Chicago ruined by a previous Transformer battle. They stumble on a crashed Transformer ship containing a still-living occupant. TRF Sentinels close in on them and warn them that they're trespassing. However, Isabella appears out of nowhere to help, slinging bottles of energon which result in one of the Sentinels shooting the another. Isabella's tiny robot Squeaks wraps a cable around the legs of the remaining Sentinel and it topples over, allowing the kids time to get away. Pursued by another Sentinel, Isabella takes the kids to shelter, a Transformer named Canopy whose back is a hollow mound of rubble. They're joined by Squeaks, who's lost his arm in the battle. Canopy and the kids start moving, unaware the TRF has spotted them. Unable to determine what faction Canopy is and with kids possibly in danger, TRF Commander Santos orders an airstrike. The missile takes out Canopy, who thanks a tearful Isabella before dying. The kids are soon rescued by Cade Yeager and Bumblebee, who destroy another Sentinel. Cade drives the kids to the border of the no-go zone and drops them off before returning to the crashed ship. Despite his efforts, the pilot within dies, but not before attempting to present Cade with the talisman. Cade does not take it. He reports the pilot's death to Bumblebee shortly before Barricade appears and Cade is suddenly surrounded by TRF forces. Meanwhile, the talisman sprouts legs and crawls away from the ship. Cade refuses to divulge where the other Transformers are. Bumblebee arrives, only to be blown to pieces by the TRF. Moments later, the parts start reconnecting as Bumblebee reassembles himself, sending the TRF forces into disarray as he does so. He and Cade take Santos hostage, but the standoff is interrupted by the arrival of Lennox, who tries to talk Cade and Bee into standing down. Hound's appearance settles things however, and Cade, Bee, and Hound leave, though the TRF manages to surreptitiously attach a tracking device onto Bumblebee. Lennox reports to General Morshower, who plays a recording of Barricade reporting back to Megatron. Megatron is disappointed Barricade failed to secure the talisman as it is the object they need to lead them to the staff, but Barricade believes the TRF will lead them to it. Morshower orders Lennox to return to his covert infiltration of the TRF. Optimus's voyage through space comes to an end as he crashes on the ravaged surface of Cybertron, which has been mysteriously disassembled into many pieces. He encounters and attacks Quintessa, who claims to be his creator and the prime of life, but she easily restrains him. As he returns to the junkyard he calls home, Cade realizes that the talisman has somehow ended up in his vehicle. In England, Cogman alerts Sir Edmund Burton to the arrival of the talisman. Elsewhere in England, Vivienne Wembley wins a game of polo for her team before returning to the University of Oxford. She lectures her class on King Arthur, someone she believes to be a made-up legend. Unaware she's being watched by Burton, Burton gives instructions to a nearby parked car. Quintessa tells Optimus that he must retrieve her staff, stolen by her Night Guardians and hidden on Earth. Drift and Crosshairs are hanging out in the junkyard. Cade, Hound, and Bumblebee stop off on their way back so Cade can banter with the local authority, Chief Sherman, who complains that his cruiser has been stolen. The trio continue to the junkyard where Jimmy and Wheelie are looking at online photos of custom cars. They are unaware Isabella and Squeaks have stowed away on Hound. While Bumblebee and Crosshairs come to blows, Cade persuades Grimlock to cough up Sherman's cruiser, or what's left of it. Day Trader arrives, bringing Starscream's head and a new voice box for Bumblebee. He's interested in Cade's talisman, and says it's a sign of the impending apocalypse. Isabella fronts up to Cade and attempts to persuade him to let her stay. They return to Cade's trailer for antics with the baby Dinobots and trade stories of lost family members. Isabella manages to impress Cade with her knowledge of Cybertronian physiology, and he's convinced to let her stay. In Namibia, scientists arrive at a location to find a giant metal horn poking out of the ground. News of the horn, and 5 more like it, get back to Simmons and Burton. Meanwhile, the NASA scientists meet with presidential staff to report they have detected an approaching planet, which they say will arrive in 3 days. Helped by Hound, Cade makes an untraceable satellite phone call to his daughter at college, but is unable to speak to her for fear that his voice will be recognized by the CIA, and can only listen as she tries to convince him to get a girlfriend. Lennox meets Morshower at the Pentagon for a briefing on the horns. Megatron has been spotted visiting them and has snatched up 2 CIA operatives as hostages. Lennox and some lawyers meet with Megatron to negotiate the return of some of his men. They agree to release Mohawk, Dreadbot, and Nitro Zeus. Berserker, however, turns out to be a step too far, and Megatron is forced to select Onslaught instead. Morshower believes they can use Megatron so they can get hold of Cade's talisman themselves. As morning breaks over the junkyard, the Decepticons prepare to move in, observed by the TRF. Isabella attaches a new arm to Squeaks, before helping Cade fit Bumblebee's new voice box. B is not happy with the result, which sounds like a GPS. Sherman gives the group advanced warning of the impending Decepticon assault, and the Autobots and humans scramble to get ready to escape. Megatron's group arrives to find the junkyard deserted, at least until Hound pops up and starts shooting. Megatron returns fire. The Autobot group heads into the nearby town, where Drift swiftly disables the tracking device on B. Grimlock and Slug ambush the TRF forces en route to the town. Santos has a swarm of unmanned drones sent in. The Decepticons arrive in the middle of town and immediately spot Squeaks, which draws Isabella out in an attempt to save the tiny Autobot. Cade detonates the explosives hidden around town and flees with Isabella, pursued by Barricade. The con is knocked aside by Grimlock, who also devours Dreadbot. As the battle rapidly turns against the Decepticons, with Onslaught being killed by Drift and Crosshairs, Megatron calls a retreat. Mohawk, however, is left behind and is subsequently reduced to a head by Bumblebee. Cade, Isabella, and Jimmy take cover in a disused church as the TRF drones move in. However, the drones continue to pursue them through the church. Cade and Isabella take 2 of them out, but Jimmy tries to bluff a third, banking on the idea it's using facial recognition. He gets shot anyway, but fortunately it was only a beanbag. The trio head into another disused building and enter a lift where they encounter Cogman, who announces he's come to collect Cade. The discussion ends when a drone arrives, and Cade ends up clinging to it as it flies wildly around the street. Cogman phones Sir Burton to report the bad news. But fortunately Cade survives his impromptu flight, partly thanks to the talisman protecting him from bullets. He manages to ride another drone to the ground and is met by Cogman, who explains that he's important because of the talisman. Crosshairs attempts to prevent Cogman from doing anything, only for the smaller robot to break his finger. Cogman convinces Cade to go with him and leave the others. Cade and B accompany Cogman on a plane to England. Morshower and Lennox track the flight, and note that Megatron's group is giving pursuit. Lennox is ordered to take the TRF team to the UK as well. Simmons calls Sir Burton to let him know a book has been tracked down. NASA continues tracking the incoming planet, now identified as Cybertron. Quintessa reveals to Optimus that Earth is actually Unicron and that they're going to kill him with the staff. An act which will destroy Earth and restore Cybertron. Optimus's optics turn purple as Quintessa addresses him as Nemesis Prime. Optimus swears to fight anyone who interferes with his new mission. Vivian and her family watch a news report on the giant horns. Conversation turns to her dead father, and her mother suggests she check her father's study in case there's anything useful for her work. Disinterested, she instead gets into her car where an invitation falls out of the glove compartment. The car takes off of its own accord and starts driving her through the streets of London. When she smashes a window, the car complains in a French accent and throws her into the trunk. She calls for help, having realized she's in a transformer, and the car scans a passing Lamborghini, reconfiguring itself into a copy of the other vehicle. Cade's plane lands at Sir Burton's castle, where he and Bumblebee are shot at by a tank transformer. Sir Burton apologizes and takes a look at the talisman. Hot Rod arrives carrying Vivian, who is unhappy at being kidnapped. Once things calm down, Sir Burton explains he's the last of the Order of the Witwickens. Cade's boorish behavior towards Vivian results in him being assaulted by Cogman. Sir Burton shows off portraits of his family tree in the Witwickens, and relates how the Transformers have been helping humans for centuries, such as when Bumblebee and Hot Rod took part in World War II. They head to another building which houses the original round table used by King Arthur and his knights when they teamed up with the 12 Guardian Knights. Further, there is a legend that a last knight would be found, and thanks to possessing the talisman, that's Cade. Only Merlin's DNA can unlock the power of the staff, which is where Vivian comes in as a direct descendant of Merlin. She has no idea where the staff might be though. Further discussion is halted as MI6 and TRF forces arrive to assault the castle. Despite one of the elderly Autobots attempting to defend the castle only to power down as a result of his aging, Hot Rod's time-stopper weapon gives the group enough time to escape. Simmons makes an irate call to Sir Burton, who is currently being pursued through London and is late for the appointment at Trinity Library. Bumblebee arrives at Vivian's house with her and Cade, and the pair start rifling through her father's study in search of a clue. Sir Burton's dropped off at the library, but Simmons demands to be inducted into the Order of Witwickens before he'll point Sir Burton to the book, which reveals Earth as Unicron and points them to Stonehenge. Cade and Vivian find a clue in an old pop-up book which points them to the HMS Alliance at a naval museum. The TRF arrive at the house. Meanwhile, Sir Burton and Cogman switch cars and a high-speed chase through the streets of London ensues. Cade and Vivian, now also making a getaway in Bumblebee, let them know about the Navy Museum. Cogman manages to shake his pursuers while Bumblebee manages to shake Barricade by blasting the Decepticon. Bumblebee reaches the Naval Museum at the same time as Cogman and Sir Burton, and they have the HMS Alliance evacuated. Sir Burton leaves the others to it, explaining that the submarine, in reality a transformer, knows the way to the staff. The sub launches, with Bumblebee clinging to the exterior so he can come along for the ride. The sub's departure is noted by TRF and they track it as it heads away from England. The TRF scramble their own submersibles to give chase. A nuclear sub fires missiles at the Alliance, which responds by ramming the other sub and diving deeper into the ocean. Cogman fires himself out through a torpedo tube. Sir Burton arrives at number 10 to see the Prime Minister, but is turned away. Cogman returns to the sub with a couple of fish he's caught. Vivian and Cade share clumsy sexual chemistry until Cogman reveals he's made sushi as a last meal. Sir Burton takes a secret back entrance into number 10 to talk to the PM. holding off security by threatening to release the watch that killed Hitler. Sir Burton tells the PM to mobilize the military to Stonehenge. The Alliance zeroes in on a vast undersea transformer ship, which lights up as they approach. The pursuing TRF subs also spot the ship, but have to make their own way in after the airlock doors close behind the Alliance. The Alliance surfaces beyond the airlock, and the group starts exploring. Back at the junkyard, Isabella, Squeaks, and Crosshairs look up at the approaching Cybertron. Elsewhere, NASA and ESA scientists give a briefing as the approaching planet scrapes the surface of the Moon. The Doomsday News is broadcast on television around the world. The subs carrying the TRF teams led by Lennox and Santos emerge into an air pocket, and they move out. Day Trader arrives back at the junkyard with the Autobots ship, and the group there prepares to head to England to help out. Cade and Vivian find a chamber holding motionless Guardian Knights. Cybertron moves into Earth's atmosphere, passing the International Space Station. Vivian touches a Celtic engraving which reveals Merlin's sarcophagus, inside which they find a wooden staff. As the TRF moves through the same chamber, one of the knights springs to life. Cade keeps it distracted as the TRF attacks it, eventually bringing it down. Vivian grabs the wooden staff which transforms into metal in her hands. Lennox and Santos attempt to get her to hand it over, but she reveals only she can use it. More knights revive and attack, however a short time later, Optimus kills them and forces Vivian to turn the staff over to him. Sending the others back to the sub, Cade, Lennox, and Bumblebee go after Optimus. Bumblebee fights with Optimus atop the vast ship as it comes to the surface. Bumblebee manages to get the better of his former leader, and Cade attempts to persuade Optimus to stop fighting. As the ship rises out of the water, Optimus is able to get the upper hand and is prepared to end Bumblebee when Bee manages to talk in his own voice. Shaking Quintessa's influence, Optimus drops his sword, just in time for Megatron and Nitro to swoop in and claim the staff. After the Decepticons leave, the remaining Guardian Knights emerge from the ship and are ready to execute Optimus for aiding Quintessa's cause. The talisman transforms into a sword which Cade uses to block the killing strike. And the Knights recognize Cade as a knight. Though Prime is ready to die, Cade talks him out of sacrificing himself. And Optimus announces they have to destroy Quintessa with the other Autobots show up in their ship. Cybertron makes touchdown on Earth, causing untold destruction. Megatron arrives at Stonehenge with the staff. Lennox contacts Morshower with the coordinates for the end game. An ignition chamber which is part of one of the dangling pieces of Cybertron and military forces move in. Cade comes up with a plan to load Ospreys onto the Autobot ship so they can get close enough to the ignition chamber to land. NASA thinks this is a bad plan and works on an alternate idea. The massive ship continues towards Stonehenge where the Decepticons, along with Sir Burton and the military forces, are waiting. At Sir Burton's signal, the military opens fire on the Decepticons as the massive ship arrives directly overhead. The Autobots regroup with Cade and the TRF, and Optimus Prime gives a stirring speech before blasting off. Cogman manages to find Sir Burton, who had been blasted by Megatron sometime prior to the Autobots' arrival, shortly before he expires. Megatron returns to the ignition chamber where Quintessa is waiting. She plugs the staff into the floor, and lightning starts arcing about. The pieces of Cybertron start moving about and joining, causing those on the ground to run for their lives. Massive worldwide destruction ensues. As the Autobot ship carries Autobots, Knights and humans up to their fates, Cade asks Vivian out on a date. Jets soften up the defenses around the ignition chamber while the humans all board the Ospreys, and Cade has it out with Santos. Shamed, the TRF troops all rip off their insignias. The Ospreys launch, and Isabella and Squeaks reveal they've stowed away on the one carrying Cade and Vivian. Covered by the jets and the giant three-headed dragon, the Ospreys head to the ignition chamber and crash land on the surface. The landing site is immediately a war zone as Megatron and his Decepticons stand in their way. Lennox spots the entrance to the chamber, but the team is pinned down by a gun emplacement. Isabella instructs Squeaks to go blow the gun emplacement up. Infernicus forms under Megatron's orders and knocks Bumblebee and company out of the air. Meanwhile, the NASA scientists have come up with a plan to use nukes to cause a nearby chunk of Cybertron to destroy the ignition chamber. Shower contacts Lennox to let him know the new plan, and the TRF forces start withdrawing. Squeaks succeeds in blowing up the gun emplacement. Optimus arrives aboard the Dragon and takes out Infernicus. As the TRF troops parachute off the platform, the jets nuke the neighboring chunk of Cybertron. Vivian drops her parachute and heads back towards the chamber, followed by Cade. The chunk hits the platform containing the chamber. However, despite the devastating impact, the chamber continues to function. The chamber tumbles down until it comes to rest on another part of Cybertron. Inside, chaos reigns as the Autobots and Decepticons fight and Vivian grabs the staff. Optimus kicks Megatron through a wall shortly before another impact sends the chamber tumbling out of the sky. Bumblebee kills Nitro Zeus and blasts Quintessa as Optimus manages to distract her. Quintessa vanishes in a flash of blue light. Vivian finally pulls the staff free, shutting down the ignition chamber just before it crashes to the ground. Optimus dramatically drives out of the cloud of debris raised by its impact, carrying Cade and Vivian. As everyone reunites, Optimus gives another stirring speech about how Earth and Cybertron are now joined as one before the Autobots depart for Cybertron alongside the Guardian Knights. War rages on Cybertron, and things look bad for the Autobots. The Decepticons have broken through the front lines, contact has been lost with the capital, and Ratchet, Brawn, Orci, Cliffjumper, Wheeljack, Ironhide, and several other survivors are pinned down under Decepticon assault until Optimus Prime arrives to momentarily repel their foes. Prime looks for Scout B-127, who appears only a moment after the arrival of Soundwave, Starscream and Shockwave on the battlefield, as well as the surge in Decepticon forces. Prompts Prime to order the Autobots to fall back to a launchpad. He instructs the Autobots to board escape pods and flee from the planet. He also gives B-127 a secret mission: go to Earth, a well-hidden planet Prime has identified, and establish a base for the Autobots to regroup and strike back. As the Seekers under Shockwave's command begin attacking the launchpad directly, Prime leaps into the horde of Decepticons to buy B-127's pod some time to escape. It's the summer of 1987, and Agent Jack Byrne's team of Sector 7 agents emerge victorious from a mock battle after leading Danny Bell and his team into an ambush. As Burns good-naturedly chides his unlucky opponent, however, an unknown projectile appears overhead and plows into their midst, injuring many agents. Burns, believing his team to be under projectile assault after confirming that no other military practices using live ammo are occurring nearby, immediately calls for backup. Upon which he comes face to face with B-127 rising from the crater. He immediately orders his forces to give chase, and the Autobot flees after scanning and transforming into a nearby military jeep. Even though the military attempts to capture him with harpoons and machine guns, B-127 evades them and emerges into a clearing leading to an empty mineshaft. Burns gives the order to cut it off from escaping into the mine, which one of his soldiers executes by blindsiding B-127 with his jeep. However, B-127 begins talking to the humans in English. assuring them of his peaceful intentions and that he is not here to hurt anyone. Burns orders the soldiers to stand down, only for a jet to appear overhead. Burns is baffled that the Air Force was alerted this early, but the robot corrects him. The plane is, in fact, the Decepticon Blitzwing, who bombards the clearing with missiles and swoops in to attack the yellow Autobot. B-127 puts up a valiant effort against Blitzwing and even manages to damage his opponent's flight systems, but is soon subdued and dangled over a cliff. Blitzwing interrogates the scout about Optimus Prime and the Autobot's whereabouts. The scout valiantly refuses and asserts that he will never talk, a move that prompts Blitzwing to make it official by ripping out his voice synthesizer. Badly injured, he is thrown off the cliff and prepared for execution. But B-127 uses a moment of quick thinking to rip a missile from the Decepticon's arm and shove it into his chest. B-127 takes advantage of the Decepticon's momentary confusion to kick himself away before opening fire on the missile, detonating it, and killing Blitzwing. As he limps away, Burns watches him leave trapped under a destroyed Jeep. The Autobot crawls to a riverbank before collapsing from his injuries, with his memory cells critically damaged. His systems scan a nearby Volkswagen Beetle before he finally fades away to unconsciousness. In Brighton Falls, Charlie Watson, a 17-year-old girl one day away from turning 18, awakens from her slumber. Since Charlie isn't over her father's death yet, she brushes off her annoying younger brother Otis, and her mother Sally's infatuation with her new boyfriend Ron. Charlie bikes to her job at the boardwalk, where she is utterly humiliated in an encounter with Tina Lark and her posse. She visits Hank's Marine Repair and Parts after hours to look for car parts, discovering an old VW Beetle under a tarmac after accidentally knocking over some motorboats. She finds the key in the ignition and attempts to start it, but is surprised when the car emits an unintelligible signal. On one of Saturn's moons, Decepticon hunters Shatter and Dropkick interrogate Cliffjumper about Optimus Prime's whereabouts. The Autobot remains resolute, which angers his interrogators, until B-127's signal, activated on Earth by Charlie, reaches the three Transformers. The two Decepticons agree to go to Earth and hunt down B-127 instead, and Dropkick vertically bisects Cliffjumper, killing the Autobot. In a Texas trailer park, the dysfunctional couple, Roy and Amber, argue about Roy spending the down payment for their house on a tricked-out new car, among other things. Their spiel is interrupted when a meteor crashes mere feet from them, missing Roy's new car, much to his relief. However, he's not so lucky when a second one falls as it obliterates both his prized car and their house. Headlights shining from inside the Inferno give the irresponsible man some hope until Shatter and Dropkick reveal themselves and transform before them. As Roy attempts to greet the newcomers, Dropkick kills the unlucky man and leaves Amber before the Decepticons drive off to the west coast following B-127's signal. Failing to make progress on repairing her late father's Corvette and feeling left out by her family, Charlie wakes up to the worst 18th birthday imaginable. The disappointing presents from Sally and Ron, a pink bicycle helmet and a book about smiling more, respectively, only worsen the feeling. She fumes in her bedroom before storming over to the auto repair and asking Hank for the Beetle. She even offers to work at the shop for a year in exchange for the car. But Hank refuses since he isn't hiring employees, and Charlie can take the car for free if she can get it to start. Charlie gets to work and soon triumphantly drives her new car home. Charlie parks her new Beetle in the garage but is surprised when a part falls out from its undercarriage. She's even more surprised when an inspection of the vehicle reveals what appears to be a face under the car, moments before B-127 transforms and reveals himself to her. However, Charlie's only momentarily terrified as her fear turns to compassion upon seeing that the Autobot is about as afraid of her as she is of him. She manages to soothe the scared scout and emotionally connect with him, giving him the name Bumblebee after the warbled beeps and buzzes he makes. Agent Simmons relays the news of the Decepticons' landfall to Burns, who immediately prepares a team to travel to Texas and intercept them. Charlie awakens the next day and goes straight to the garage, but discovers to her horror that Bumblebee has vanished without a trace. A quick interrogation of Otis reveals Sally has appropriated Charlie's car to take their dog Conan to the vet, as Ron needed to use the family station wagon. Charlie frantically chases her mother on her moped and manages to pull her over, despite Bumblebee almost blowing his cover by extending an arm out from his trunk and waving at her. She later takes the Autobot to a secluded beach, where she teaches him that he should always assume vehicle mode unless the two of them are alone. Burns' team and Dr. Powell intercept the two Decepticons in Texas and ask them to state their business. Dropkick wants to eliminate the humans, but Shatter comes up with a better idea. Lying to the humans that they are a peacekeeping Decepticon patrol. She asks Sector 7's aid in tracking down the dangerous escaped criminal, B-127. While Burns is doubtful, Powell, enthusiastic at the prospect of first contact with an alien species, eagerly agrees to talk to his superiors about the matter. Bumblebee and Charlie bond in a secluded forest. But when Bee's chest starts sparking from the damage he took during his fight with Sector 7, Charlie attempts to fix it, only to activate a holographic message sent by Optimus Prime accidentally. While the message is garbled and incomplete, hearing it jolts a memory in Bumblebee. Leaping from the collapsing launch pad and latching onto a seeker to make his way down. Optimus fights his way through several seekers before Soundwave deploys Ravage to attack him. Prime manages to fight off the feline minion with some effort, but his distraction has allowed dozens of Decepticons, including Soundwave, Shockwave, and Starscream, to surround him. The Decepticons move in to attack the Autobot leader even as B-127 watches. Unable to help, from his departing escape pod, Charlie realizes that Bumblebee is on the run from something serious. When he attempts to use his broken radio, she decides she can at least fix that. And they return to her garage, where she sets about extracting the radio from the Corvette. Bumblebee starts playing a video, which turns out to be footage of her last dive meet made by her father shortly before his death. She installs the radio in Bumblebee, though he forcefully ejects the music tapes she inserts into him. While she's looking through her tapes, he starts thumbing through her father's LPs, and she scolds him. However, after she notices a specific record, her mood changes, and she starts playing it. Recalling how she and her father used to listen to it while working on the Corvette. She tells Bee how her father died of a heart attack, and she's continued working on the car in his memory. At Sector 7, General Whalen leads a discussion over whether to allow the Decepticons access to their equipment. Burns believes they can't trust the Decepticons. But Whalen promises to turn them over to him once they track down B-127. Shatter and Dropkick are duly introduced to Sector 7's array of computers, though they're more interested in the telephone network. As Bumblebee plays with his new radio, Charlie's neighbor Memo stumbles into the garage, intending to ask Charlie on a date, and is shocked at the sight of the giant robot. Charlie swears him to secrecy, and the pair go for a drive in Bumblebee. Charlie borrows Memo's shirt so she can show off by driving blindfolded, and they hang out of Bumblebee's sunroof. Dr. Powell marvels over the radio at the massive worldwide interconnected web the Decepticons are constructing using the computers and telephone network to track energon signatures. Burns still has his misgivings, but Whalen believes they can turn the technology on the Decepticons. Still driving in Bumblebee, Charlie and Memo realize that the reason the Autobot has been playing with his radio is to teach himself to speak with it. They arrive at a cliff by the seaside, where Trip Summers challenges Charlie to dive off the cliff. When she's unable, despite urging from Bumblebee, she's cruelly mocked by Tina, though Charlie claims not to be bothered. Memo and Bumblebee both want revenge. That night, they head to Tina's house and attempt to educate Bumblebee on the art of throwing toilet paper and eggs. This doesn't go well, culminating in Bumblebee enthusiastically jumping on Tina's car and the trio making a quick getaway before she emerges to find the damage. Their frantic driving is spotted by Sheriff Locke, who gives chase in his cruiser. Bumblebee is easily able to outmaneuver Locke's vehicle, which ends up totaled as a result. The three fugitives return to Charlie's home, where they say their good nights. The next morning, Charlie tells Bumblebee he needs to stay in the garage as the authorities will be looking for him, and leaves for her job. Bumblebee instead ends up following Conan into the house, and his curious exploration ends up demolishing just about everything in the living room and kitchen. Finally, he ends up plugging himself into a wall socket, causing an energon-infused power surge that travels down nearby power lines. The equipment at Sector 7 detects the surge, and the Decepticons roll out, closely followed by Burns and his men. Memo also notices the commotion, so he calls Charlie, who returns home where the pair survey the devastation. Memo manages to get Bumblebee back into the garage, but Charlie realizes she's screwed. Meanwhile, the Decepticons have reached Brighton Falls. Sally returns home with Otis to find the destruction. An argument ensues between her and Charlie, who ends up storming out. Charlie and Memo go driving to cool off, but they run into a roadblock set up by Sector 7. Charlie tries to keep Bumblebee calm, but when the Sector 7 soldiers seize her, Bumblebee transforms and carries her off. Unfortunately, they immediately run into Shatter and Dropkick, who attempt to interrogate Bumblebee but are perplexed when the Autobot doesn't try to fight back. Burns and his men arrive and start zapping Bee with electrical guns. And Charlie gets knocked out when she attempts to help him. Charlie wakes up in her bed and emerges from her room to find Agent Burns telling her parents that she had stolen valuable government equipment. Despite her protests, her mom banishes her back to her room. She promptly slips out through her window, and Otis catches her trying to get Memo's attention by throwing rocks at his window. She manages to stop him from alerting her mother. Joining Memo in his house, they watch a news report about Sector 7 setting up shop at McKinnon Air Base. And Charlie reasons that's where they're holding Bumblebee. Otis is assigned to keep the plan secret while Charlie and Memo head to the base. At the airbase, Powell watches the two Decepticons interrogate Bumblebee. Charlie and Memo sneak into the base in time to watch as the Decepticons inadvertently trigger Optimus Prime's recording, revealing that the Autobots are coming to Earth. As the Decepticons discuss the presented opportunity, Powell realizes their mistake in cooperating with the giant evil robots and tries to radio a warning to Burns before Dropkick kills him. Sally and Ron pick over the debris in their house, and Otis is entirely unsuccessful at convincing them that Charlie is still in her room. Shatter locates a nearby communications tower they can use to call in the Decepticon army. Once Dropkick blasts Bumblebee, the pair depart, and Charlie and Memo run to the lifeless Autobot's side. Charlie believes they can still revive him using the electrical guns, and though at first, it seems as though she's unsuccessful, Bumblebee sits up, and his memories start to restore. Agent Burns and his men arrive outside and blow up the exterior door before advancing inside. Charlie tells Bumblebee to run as the troops attempt to take her and Memo away. But the soldiers harpoon Bee. It's not until Burns throws Charlie to the ground that Bumblebee finds the strength to get up and start blasting, unfazed by anything the humans throw at him. Sector 7 retreats, but Charlie has to talk Bumblebee down. Charlie tries to persuade him that they need to hide, but Bumblebee is set on stopping the Decepticons. While Charlie leaves in B, Memo tries unsuccessfully to slow down the pursuing Sector 7 vehicles. As Bumblebee and Charlie race through Brighton Falls, pursued by Sector 7, they're joined by Sally and Ron in the station wagon. Though Ron manages to obstruct Burns's vehicle successfully, he ends up spinning out as they approach a set of traffic lights. And there's an almost pileup as multiple vehicles skid to a halt just inches from hitting each other. Shatter and Dropkick blend their technology into the communications tower at the port in preparation to send their message. Bumblebee arrives and has Charlie hide in a garbage bin for protection before he begins shooting the tower, prompting Dropkick to descend and engage the Autobot in a fierce fight. An errant missile throws Charlie from her hiding place, and, seeing Bumblebee occupied, she heads for the tower. Narrowly avoiding Bumblebee and Dropkick's fight, she starts ascending a nearby crane. Burns also arrives in a helicopter, ordering the pilot to open fire on the communications tower. The battle below moves into a dry dock, with Dropkick transforming to helicopter mode to fire at Bumblebee. Bumblebee throws a chain that hits the Decepticon's rotors, wrapping around Dropkick as he changes to robot mode and allowing Bumblebee to terminate him. Charlie reaches the top of the crane and jumps across to the tower. Above her, Shatter shoots down the Sector 7 helicopter, sending it plunging towards the ground. Bumblebee manages to grab it before it can crash, saving Burns's life. Charlie moves to disconnect the Cybertronian power source, and when Shatter transforms into jet mode to stop her, Bumblebee shoots down the Decepticon. During the ensuing fight on the ground, Charlie successfully disconnects the tower's power source. An enraged Shatter pounds on Bumblebee, who shoots the wall of the dry dock. Shatter mocks him for missing until the wall gives way, and Shatter gets crushed between a ship and the side of the dock. As Bumblebee sinks to the bottom of the flooded dock, Charlie overcomes her fear and dives in, finding Bumblebee at the bottom and helping him to get back to the surface. Finally seeing Bumblebee's true nature, Burns tells the pair they need to make their escape before the rest of Sector 7 arrives, and as they leave, Memo turns up just slightly too late to save the world. Bumblebee and Charlie end up on a hill overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge, where Charlie tells the Autobot that she can't interfere with his greater purpose, and they have to go their separate ways. After a tearful farewell, Bumblebee scans a passing Camaro as his new alternate mode and drives off to rendezvous with Optimus Prime on the bridge, leaving to continue his mission. Charlie returns home and reunites with her family and Memo. That night in a nearby forest, Optimus commends Bumblebee on keeping Earth safe. As the two watch more Autobot refugees appear in the sky over Earth. Not far away, Charlie successfully gets the Corvette running and takes it for a first drive.